What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 16 of the Blue River Bow Hunting Podcast. Got a cool guest on me with me this week with Paul Campbell, uh, kind of an outdoorsman from the state of Ohio. Got several things going on in the outdoor industry. How's it going, Paul?
Brad, I'm doing good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming on, especially short notice. I kind of had
Yeah, no
somebody
worries.
cancel on me this week, but I like doing multiple a week. That way, one of these days when I don't have the time to do it, I can always throw it out there or
Yeah,
play a little bit ahead. I'm a planner type of guy. I don't like to just you know throw everything up last minute. So
yeah,
if
for
if I
sure. I
did
get
anything
that.
last minute on you, I apologize.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm
but
excited to be on.
introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm 39. I live born and raised in Central Ohio in Columbus. I live in a little town outside of Columbus, Pataskala, that no one's ever heard of. People call it Patalaska for whatever reason. But I started hunting probably mid 2000s. I didn't grow up in a hunting family. Uh, Best friend introduced me to it, and man, it just stuck. Changed the course of my life, and for the good, and I've enjoyed it. So a friend of mine and I we host a podcast called the O2 Podcast. We started, I think, in August, so we're not professionals at all. Like, we're just a couple idiots that like to hunt deer and turkeys and ducks, and we're not the experts. So we try to get the experts and ask the right questions so that people are entertained. Um, so it's been cool. Yeah, that's been fun. I actually just got what I would call my dream job with the National Wild Turkey Federation. So it's a new job for me. I'm just still getting my feet wet, still learning, but man, I'm excited. So I've been very fortunate these last couple of months. So do
You know, I,
something I love.
I always start this podcast off the same way. It's usually my first question is how you got started in hunting. But I'm going
Yeah.
to save that for a later story on
Okay.
this podcast. But I'm going to ask you, how
Yeah.
did you get started with the O2 podcast? What just how did it all come together?
So it was an existing show. It was called the Ohio Huntsman on the Sportsman's Nation podcast network. So my friend and I, we both were listeners to the show, and the guys did it. They did it for like 3 or 4 years, and they took it as far as they wanted to, and they decided to hang it up. And so my buddy Andrew Muntz, who's the co-host on the show, he email or not emails. Right? I'm still trying to figure this out. Instagram message. I guess it's not an email, but so he Instagram messages this Dan Johnson guy and said, "Hey, what are you going to do?" Dan Johnson responds back, "I don't know. Do you want to try it out?" And so my buddy Muntz calls me one day and he said, "Hey, do you want to do a podcast about hunting in Ohio?" I'm like, "I mean, is anyone going to listen?" Yeah, we'll try it. So we recorded like 3 demo episodes that will never see the light of day because they were awful. And Dan was like, "You know what? These really aren't that bad. Let's go ahead and get you plugged in." And that's just how it happened. So we've been kind of fumbling our way through it. We've been fortunate enough to have some really really good people on the show. It always amazes me, man. People will be like, "Hey, listen to your show." I'm like, "Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate it." And then like they'll tell me again. I'm like, "Oh my god, you listened to it again, and you you brought someone else, like you told your friends about it." Thank you, man. That means a lot. So I'm still amazed that people have they put value on what a moron like myself has to say. So yeah,
You say that it was called the Ohio Outdoorsman first. I
yeah,
didn't. I don't think I realized, and probably until the last few years, I didn't realize how big the outdoors in Ohio what meant to people until
yeah,
I really met some from people from over there. I've actually hunted over there myself. It's just a whole nother ball game. I mean, you get that tradition in the northern states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania type of situation. I feel like Ohio can be added into that category. I feel like they have a pretty rich heritage themselves.
yeah. I feel the same way, and it's kind of weird for me because I started hunting, mid 20s, early 20s, and I'm, with my family, I'm creating kind of those traditions that I hope, stick and go on for generations. But, the more I immerse myself in this culture, and the more people that I talk to, and that I meet, and the more game animals that I chase, like, you just see something different, and it's really neat. Like I was goose hunting a couple years ago, and my buddy and I were walking out of the field carrying geese and everything, and this guy like 3 guys come up and they got a dog. I'm like, what are you guys hunting? They're like, woodcock. I'm like, woodcock? What the hell's a woodcock? I had no idea what a woodcock was, but so I went out, hunted them. They're terrifying birds. If you've ever been around them, they make like the craziest noises and they jump up out of nowhere and they got these giant long beaks on them,
Right.
but they're delicious.
I've never
So
actually gotten to try woodcock. I've seen a bunch
yeah,
of them waterfowl hunting myself,
yeah,
and
they're just
they are wild looking.
they are, man. They're crazy, but so like there's just like this huge group of people that just love to hunt woodcocks in the state of Ohio. They've got dogs. That's just something that they look forward to. It's their tradition every year. And then pheasant hunting. It's just neat, man. I appreciate all the different aspects of the culture that we love. So
Definitely. I feel like you can correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm not from over there. I don't know. I feel like there's almost like this dividing line in Ohio. Like
yeah,
at a certain point north, it's like
100%.
100% waterfowl, like big
Yeah,
waterfowl people. And then you
yeah,
get south of that line, and it's hardcore deer hunters, like hardcore deer hunters.
yeah. So yeah, 70 Interstate 70 runs right smack dab through the middle of the state, cuts it north and south, and so that southeastern portion of the state, a lot of big woods, a lot of hardwoods, super hilly, a lot of terrain features, and it kind of runs up to the the northeast part of the state. But just that very corner into Pennsylvania and West Virginia. But then when you slam over to the west, it's all ag. It's flat. It's fields. There's you get the Lake Erie marsh zone up there. Ton of waterfowl. If it wasn't for the Lake Erie zone, the North Zone in Ohio, I don't think we'd have a duck in the state of Ohio. So,
But unfortunately, you have Lake Erie, and you guys
yeah,
get absolutely slammed with some birds up there.
we do, man. I've not hunted the North Zone. I've hunted the North Zone, but not Lake Erie.
Hmm.
I really want to get up there. I hear, and I watch like Fred Zink, the guy
Right.
that the game call maker. He's got a big place up there. I mean, you watch his videos, and he's just smashing 100. He's got huge groups, and there's just ducks everywhere. And yeah, it's cool. It's good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. We'll get into that waterfowl here in a little
Yeah,
bit. But tell us a little about you were talking about you landed the dream job with NWTF. Explain that a little bit how you got it and
yeah,
what's in store for you later on with it.
yeah. So it was right before Thanksgiving, and I was on the NWTF. They changed their logo. Everyone knows that.
Hmm.
And I was trying to get my hands on some old hats with old with the 3 toms on it. So I was on their website looking for hats, and they had like a job opportunities. Like I'm like, I wonder what they got going. What is the NWTF hiring for? Biologists, and everyone knows that. But
Right.
so they had this position for the director of development for East Central. So it's Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey is my territory. So what it is, I've been in sales for a while in the golf industry. I've
Hmm.
been in the golf industry since 2004, just looking for something different. And this this popped up, and so it's fundraising, just relationship building, networking with individuals, companies, organizations, just getting the message of the National Wild Turkey Federation out there, and just kind of being that conduit between the people that are out in the field hunting and the organization. So um, it's really neat, man. I've been a member of the NWTF since the moment I started turkey hunting. I
Me too.
and I don't want to get preachy here, but I feel like for individuals, if you hunt, I mean, you should the licenses and the tags that we put into, and then the money that we put into from the Pittman Robinson Act, it's not enough. Just
Right.
because the demand that's on the resource that we all love, and that's the resources, the animals, it's under so much strain and pressure that anything that I can do financially or with like time, and I'm like $50 a year. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I'm just some poor working class dude from Ohio. You know what I mean? I'm not donating a ton of money, but anything that I can do to help that bird that means a lot to me, or Pheasants Forever, Ducks Unlimited, the Deer Association, anything, if I whatever I can give, I'll do. And it's just something that's been real important to me. And I saw they had that position open. I sent them my resume, and I what generated. I didn't really qualify like 100% for what they were looking for, but I wrote them just this honest letter, man. Like, in the first words were, "I'm a turkey hunter," and I just laid it out, like what this bird and the sport, and what it means to me as an individual, and it generated a phone call, and it just took off from there. So, man, I'm so fortunate. I'm grateful that I get to work with all these great people and this wild bird, man, that I absolutely love. So
Oh,
I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be more
absolutely.
motivated, man, to be honest with you. Like, I'm so laser focused on what I have to do and what's in front of me that it's obnoxious to my family and
I
friends.
mean, I couldn't even imagine probably the opportunities that come up from all that as well. I feel like, if you're a duck hunter, you need to support DU, Ducks Unlimited. Turkey hunters need to support NWTF.
Yeah,
There's other organizations out there for some other game, but I feel like
yeah,
those are like two big companies. If you're into that kind of thing, I think you need to support them because they're like you said, they're only gonna throw thousands and millions of dollars in on
yeah.
supporting the game that you're chasing, and do as much as you can, not just state wise, but
Yeah.
on a national level.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And it, like just in your state of Indiana, I had to look it up. I was just curious, but they have the NWTF 10 years ago at this point started the Save the Habitat, Save the Hunt. And the goals of that were, conserve X amount of acres across the country, the 6 zones. They've broken up, recruit over 1 million new hunters, retain new hunters. And then their goal was to open up 500,000 acres of public hunting land across the country, and they accomplished that way before I got there. So I had nothing to do with this other than donating money and the time. But Indiana, I think it was like 1,800 acres that
I'll say
over the
I've
last.
actually hunted a piece of that down in southern Indiana near French Lick.
Okay,
My buddy Ryan, his uncle has a place that butts up to a lot of public, and his actual property with his house is probably less than 300 yards from NWTF.
yeah, that's awesome.
They do the controlled burns and
Okay,
all that, and it's absolutely beautiful land with a ton of birds. Ton of
yeah,
birds.
I'll tell you what, man. So we don't do, when I say we, I mean folks north of the Mason-Dixon line. We don't do a ton of controlled burns.
Hmm.
And boys in the South, man, like you can see on the radar, like the weather
Right.
satellites when they're burning their turkey woods. I mean, it's insane. But there was a spot that I hunted down in southern Ohio that the state went through and did a controlled burn. And the opening day I was there and there was nothing. It was like a barren wasteland. Everything was burnt. 2 weeks later, it was completely green with little 10-inch vegetation, all the food they could have, and it was full of birds. I mean, they
That's
absolutely
awesome.
love it. So, and it's so beneficial.
How is the turkey population in the state of Ohio? Is it pretty healthy?
It's definitely up and down. So, we had in August of 2021, the Department of Wildlife announced that they were going to reduce the bag limits from 2 spring bearded birds to one for 2022. So on the podcast, we had just a couple weeks ago, we interviewed Mark Wiley, who's the upland game bird biologist for the state of Ohio, and I was in a panic. Because I have, as someone in the public, I have limited information. So I'm forming my opinions. Oh God, we don't have wild turkeys anymore. They dropped it to one. And that wasn't the case. So it's definitely a preventative measure. And he basically said that the reason they did it the last couple of years during the spring, we've had really wet, cold springs. I'm sure Indiana's been the same.
Hmm.
I know. I mean, up until like the second week of the season, I don't think we got out of the 40s,
Hmm.
and it was just rainy and wet and cold. And poults can't handle that.
Right.
They can't regulate their temperature for I don't know how many weeks it is, but so we had that hitting us. 2020 there, that big COVID boom, which we had a little spike in harvest numbers. It wasn't crazy, so they felt that to protect the resource going forward, protect the bird, that we could have a temporary, and I want to stress to people listening from Ohio, it's temporary, just kind of like stabilize. But Mark, the biologist, was really confident the population was going to bounce back, that things are good. Um, I feel like the wild turkey is just, it's always on like a razor's edge, and it can just go one way or the other. And
Right.
and it's up to guys like those, Mark Wiley, the biologists that are actually out there monitoring and regulating these populations to be on their game. And it takes a lot. Like the state of Ohio, I'm sure Indiana has the same thing, but we can report poults, like poult populations, poult
Hmm.
numbers during the spring and summer. And I mean, that's huge. I mean, I didn't realize how important that was to the state of Ohio and to the biologists, but that's a huge ordeal. So I think there's some responsibility from the hunters too when it comes to reporting what you see, and it just all it does is help, and it backs up the biology and the science. So
Yeah, we have like surveys that they send
yeah,
us after a season and stuff like that, and you report what you saw, even on deer hunting, and kind of like when you register for your hip number,
Yeah.
when you're waterfowl hunting, you say what you harvest or whatever. I'm sure a lot of that goes into some incredible databases that I probably
Yeah.
can't even wrap my mind around.
Exactly. Some ornithologist is just buried in a basement, just calculating bird harvest numbers. So,
So I said I'd come back to it,
yeah.
and I want to ask you because you told me a little bit about it, off the air, when we are messaging back and forth. But how exactly did you get started? I know it started with the turkey hunt someplace.
Yeah. So it was, I'm trying to remember. It's either 2005 or 2006, sometime in there. My best friend growing up, Kenny, he grew up hunting. His dad hunted deer, hunted turkeys, and he kind of went through a phase in our teens where he didn't really hunt. And then about 24, 23, 24, he's like, one day he's like, hey man, do you want to go turkey hunting? I'm like, well, what the hell's a turkey? Like a wild turkey. Like people do that. I had never hunted a thing in my life. I probably shot 2 guns at the time. Like I grew up in the city, man. My parents did not participate in that. So I was like, you know what, why not? And it was a real bad season in my life. My dad had just died. Like the golf industry was just getting crushed. The economy was kind of crappy, and jobs were insecure. And man, I was drinking a lot, and I was just on this like real destructive path in my life. And so I was like, yeah, man, let's do it. So I go to Walmart. I bought the cheapest camo that I could buy. I mean, I like a $5 shirt and a $10 pair of pants and like hiking boots from Walmart. And I bought this like Remington turkey vest with a turkey pad that was like
Right.
as thick as a quarter, and I didn't know what I was getting into. And so I borrowed a shotgun, and I bought this Primo's Power Crystal call from Walmart, and
Oh, I know
so
exactly
I
the
take it
call
out.
you're
I take
talking
it out to
about.
my car, and I'm like scratching. It's not making a sound. I didn't know that you had to sand it. Like so, I'm trying to practice for weeks, and I can't make a sound on this thing. And so like YouTube wasn't around then, so there was no way like you had to talk to someone to kind of get that information. There's some message boards out there, and somehow I found out that you had to scrape it with sandpaper to be able to to rough it up to make the sound of a turkey. So so that first year we took a full week off. We go down to a big old chunk of public down in Southern Ohio, and first day nothing. I mean it poured rain. It was 38 degrees. It was just a miserable Ohio day. And that second day we go out and we're up on this ridge, and we hiked up, and we're just sitting, like we have no idea what we're doing. Zero idea. And we're just sitting there, and I hear a turkey gobble for the first time in my life, and my heart pounded out of my chest. I mean, I was like, I'm surprised I didn't pass out. Never been that excited in my life. And so these turkeys were like below us, maybe 200 feet below us on this ridge, like real high. And I watched these toms just like walk by, and my buddy would yelp at him, they'd gobble. And I'm like, oh my god, I got to kill one of those. I have to. Like I've never, like, something in my brain just broke loose, and I didn't kill a turkey for the first 3 years that I hunted. I didn't even get close. And so like those first couple years, like out of the season, and like that right after spring, man, all I wanted to do, I would go out into the woods, and I would just sit there and I would listen to these turkeys interact with each other, man, and just listen to them call, and just figure out like where they're going, what they're trying to do. And I still have to figure that out. But yeah, so that first bird, man, it meant the world to me. I worked so hard for it, and yeah, it just connected, man. It clicked, and I don't want to say it like gave my life purpose, but at that moment in my life, where I was, personally, it gave me purpose, and it drug me out of a pit, man, that I don't know if I ever would have got out of if it wasn't for that bird. So
That's awesome. That's an
yeah,
awesome story, and
thank
I
you,
actually
man.
had like the total opposite luck. First day I was ever in the turkey woods, ever killed a bird, half hour into my first hunt ever.
Oh, come on, look at you.
14 years old, I actually killed my first turkey before I killed my first whitetail.
Oh, good deal.
10 gauge actually,
Oh man,
just a little bitty Jake. Nothing wasn't nothing special,
yeah,
but obviously is a special. It was kind of
yeah.
like my first harvest of anything.
That's awesome, man. You'll remember forever.
Kentucky, man. I used to go to
Good deal.
Kentucky. for a week every year. I don't necessarily do that trip anymore. I
Okay.
might get back down there, but turkey hunting, man, just will light a fire under you.
Yeah, 100%.
I love it.
Yeah, and man, like I deer hunt occasionally. I've had some success, and I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong, but I told you the farthest. I don't know if you remember these little devices. They're made by like Garmin or someone like that. They're called the Backtrack. They're about the size of like maybe like a beer can. They're gray and yellow, and you get out and you press the button on it, and it would set your location. This is before like cell phones, like GPS cell phones and Garmin's and all that.
Right.
So you'd set your location, and then you'd walk and you hike or whatever, and it would tell you how to get back to the truck, and it'd tell you how many miles you were. And there was one year, I'm definitely like next ridge, like they're going to be on the next ridge, like they're going to be on the next ridge. And I just go. I'm calling in, trying to find them. And I get this bird, kill this bird. It's 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm by myself. No one's around. And I look at that Garmin. I was 17 miles from the truck.
Woo!
17. I had crossed like 2 roads in
awesome.
Wayne National Forest in Southern Ohio.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
And
about.
I got like, and it's like 85 degrees. It's like almost the end of the year. And I'm walking back, and I don't think I got back to the truck till like 9:30. But halfway through, I'm like, I'm gonna die out here. Like, this is it. I'm gonna die with this turkey because I am lost. I am hungry. I'm out of water. I'm sweating, but I had a smile on my face the entire time.
Oh,
So
absolutely. You probably had a
yeah,
smile on your face for the next week.
yeah, absolutely, man. It was a
So
good
talk
one.
a little bit about Ohio, and it can be
Yeah.
turkey. We'll get to the ducks at some point, but deer and turkey. What kind of terrain and stuff are you tackling out there on that stuff?
So Ohio, I feel is like, I feel it's really interesting because you get those. We talked about that kind of that line, going right through the middle of the state. And if you took and separated Ohio into 4 quadrants, north, south, east, west, whatever, each zone is completely different. So that southeast is super rugged. You've got a ton of elevation change. You've got these big hardwood stands. It's like elk country out there. I mean, it feels
Oh
like
yeah.
you're in the mountains of like West Virginia or Kentucky. And it's just like this little isolated, maybe 7 or 8 county, 10 county pocket that's just crazy. And then it starts to flatten out. You get into that, a bunch of hardwoods, but mix in ag fields, kind of in the center eastern portion of the state. And that's where all the real big deer are. Kind of that middle strip of counties right down the middle of the state. I mean, that's the big buck corridor in Ohio. You
Absolutely.
get up into that, that marshy zone where it's real swampy and it's just flat, man. I mean, you can see a mile. So Ohio's a very, very interesting state in that regard that, you get some of that transition weather too, where, we might be getting, that early turkey season and even early bow season for deer. The northeast tip of the state coming off of Lake Erie will have 6 inches of snow on the ground because of the lake effect. You go 200 miles south, it's 20 degrees warmer, and the leaves haven't even changed colors yet. In
That's
the fall,
wild.
so it's just a really unique weather state. It's frustrating as hell a lot of times. So, but I think it's just it makes especially the public land hunter, if you're traveling all over the state. I mean, like you were well versed and diversified in your abilities to hunt wild game, which I think that's pretty unique to a lot of states. And I like that aspect of it.
Oh,
So
absolutely. I kind of messed up when I had a one-track mind when I came over there. I came over there the second week of November, public land hunting, and I stuck to one property. And that's
yeah,
where I really messed up. I should have ventured off some other places. The reason I stuck to that property is we were kind of on a wing it trip. We had a enclosed trailer, we had tents, air mattresses, and our bows, and and
yeah,
our gear setup. If I could go back, I would definitely travel to some other properties. But having that camp set up kind of held me into
sure.
a certain location, and it was
Hey, you're comfortable at that point,
absolutely, we had campfire and
Yeah,
everything, places to go eat if that's what we wanted to do. But the public land woods, I feel like, and I've talked about it on this podcast a couple times actually, talking about my trip over there. that public land woods in Ohio gets hit hard those first, the last week of October and
Yeah.
the first 2 weeks of November with some public land hunters, and it's
Yeah.
mostly out of state guys.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So my buddy Kenny and I, we were down in a big old chunk of public down in the southeast. So, we've got, there's like 4 or 5 massive state forests that are all really close to each other. And we drove through one of them. And it was like peak rut. This is like first week in November. And we counted 17 trucks, like in our travels. 13 of them were from out of state.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's fine. I'll hunt out of state. I have no problems. I wish that I wish that the state like Ohio, like same with Indiana, like we're a big deer state. We're not Iowa. We're not some maybe Georgia or Texas. But when it comes to like Midwest, like we got a really good deer herd and we got some big deer. And it's not it definitely like a lot of Ohio guys and a lot of just I don't want to say Ohio because it's nationwide, but people feel that like because you live there that's yours. And technically it is, but it's a shared resource. Like I paid to be there, man. And the last hunt I went out on, I took my nephew rabbit hunting, and I saw 4 guys from Vermont as we're walking out, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is our first day here. We've never been here." I'm like, so I pulled out my Onyx. I'm like, "All right, there's rubs here. This, and I gave them like the lay of the land. I want them to have a good time, man. I want them to be. I want people, from out of state to be successful. I want all of us to, be successful and enjoy our time. So
And that was probably, one of the coolest things about camping there is obviously we met people.
Yeah,
And,
I love that.
Everybody was out of state as well.
Yeah.
People next to us, father, son from Pennsylvania, they had tagged out in Pennsylvania like I had tagged out here in Indiana. And it was just like we didn't know nobody. We didn't know each other from nobody, average Joes. And we're sitting by a campfire, having a couple beers together, talking about whitetails and turkey and everything. It was really cool to meet those people.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. There's something special about deer camp and turkey camp, but deer camp especially, man. You get all those people, and it's just that you talk about that tradition and that heritage, and it's nationwide, man. It's just something that it doesn't matter who you are. I could have just pulled up and met you and never see you again, but we're going to be buddies for that time that we're there, and we're going to, share stories and break bread and all that good stuff, man. I love it. So it's a special event. So I really enjoy those hunters camps that Ohio has. I'm sure Indiana has them too. So
I'm sure they do, but I've never really been a part of one. I feel like
Okay.
I got when we deer hunt here, it's mostly we're hunting private property. We might take a buddy or go with a buddy or whatever, especially with me filming. But we don't have like that camp. Like we don't have a log cabin that we all get together and we're all hanging out and hunting close and drinking beers and playing poker at night or whatever. It's always been on trips that I've gotten to go on, Wisconsin, Ohio, Kentucky for years when I was down there turkey hunting. Like there's just nothing like a camp, or that's what you're there for. You're there to have a good time and try to be successful while you're there.
Yeah, that camaraderie, man. That's important. It really is. And I think for a lot of people, especially content creators, like they don't show that side of it, man. They just gloss over it. And that drives me nuts because it creates this idea that like when I first started hunting, YouTube limited, like Angel Fire, whatever the hell they were, so I would watch the Outdoor Channel and I would watch Sportsman's Channel. And so I learned to deer hunt from like Mark Drury, who's killing 200-inch deer. And then I go out and I'm like, oh my God, all I'm seeing is like little basket rack aids. I don't care. I'm shooting them. You know what I mean? Right. And so it creates like a false sense of what hunting is all about. And that's good to hear, man. Cause that's the heart and soul of it.
Oh, absolutely. I wish I could get, well, I mean, we kind of have, we have a buddy that kind of like you talked. He grew up in the city, not around anything like that. And the last few years, he's went hunting with us. He sparked an interest. We took him. He killed a turkey. His first ever harvest was a turkey last year. And he went duck hunting with us this past few weekends. And Sunday, we shot almost a 5-man limit of mallards. And
I saw that truck bed on Twitter, man.
His eyes were this big, because everything was froze up. So these ducks wanted in on this river. Like that's where they were going. They had no other place. And when they come down on you and it's all close quarters like that, I mean, it's an experience that I can't even explain to anybody. it'll be right up there with hearing a turkey gobble or watching a
Yeah.
big buck or something. Watching those birds work, and you're working them or hitting jerk rigs, and you're kind of playing around with them, and all of a sudden they're in your face, and then everybody's
Yeah.
unloading, everybody's hooting and hollering afterward. Woo!
Yeah. Oh
Six
yeah.
ducks come in the hole and none of them leave. That's a good day. I like days like that.
That's a good moment right there. Yeah, that's cool, man.
So
Yeah, it was.
how did you get in on waterfowl?
So I hunt 99.5% of my hunting is done on public land. And it's not because I'm some, righteous public land hunter. It's literally out of necessity because I don't own property and I'm too much of a chicken shit to ask someone for permission. So it's always been public land. And being a public deer hunter, I mean, it can be hard. Like you gotta, once you're a pound of flesh, especially bow hunting. And so my deer hunting career, it's definitely peaks and valleys, success, failure, failures, a little bit of success, failure. And so I was sitting in a tree stand on this chunk of public in Ohio here, right in the center of the state. And there's this cut cornfield to my left, and there's a river bottom, and I'm kind of hunting like this transition zone. I had like 300 geese landing in the field next to me, and I'm like, I'm waterfowl hunting. I called my buddy. I'm like, I'm done deer hunting. I'm going out. I'm buying waders. I'm buying a layout blind. I'm buying a duck shotgun. Just done. And I'll tell you what. So this is 4 or 5 years ago, probably 4 years ago, I made, I just changed my focus, my priority. I had a lot more fun waterfowl hunting than I did deer hunting. And it's just something that, just stuck with me. So, I enjoy, I like gearing up, man. I like the duck calls. I like the waders. I like the decoys. I like all that stuff, pulling the sled and through the marsh. I love it. And it's just something I've really enjoyed. Still kind of trying to figure it out. It's definitely been an evolution with the waterfowl hunting. But I still enjoy it, and it's just something that's exciting and it's still new for me.
Absolutely. And I know he's probably listening to this whenever I post it. But my buddy Ryan, who I film a lot during deer season, and we do a lot of hunting trips together, and I kind of got him into the waterfowl game way back. But he says the same thing. He says, I love chasing deer. I love trapping and fishing and everything. But there's just something about that waterfowl game that gets me excited. Probably more than others. You can just, that you're talking about with your buddies, the camaraderie. You're sitting there in the blind. Everybody's I wouldn't say hooting and hollering, but we joke actually every time we duck hunt together. There's a group of 4 or 5 of us. We all say we should have a speaker in here and really record what we say in here because it's such just a hoot, and everybody would be laughing and probably judging us at the same time on the stuff we say.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I understand what you're saying though. Getting jacked up, you get the waders on, you get your jacket on, you got your calls, you got your blind bag, you got your floating gun case. You make the haul out there with your decoys. You set your decoys up a certain way on, maybe wind direction or this or that or shadows and all this kind of stuff.
None of it matters.
None of it matters as long as the ducks want in there. They're coming in there or they're not coming in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny, man. My buddy Ken, I love him to death, man. Like a brother. We met in kindergarten, and he's real technical, man. I'm definitely the more like I'll wing it. Like we'll figure that shit out. Throw them decoys out. Let's get And he's like wind direction and all this stuff, and has really done his research. And he's like, well, the ducks are going to land this way. I'm like, no, they're not. Who knows? They're living animals. Like they can make a decision, and they circle you. And so it's funny every time, like they'll land, pretty much right where he says they're going to land. And the one time out of 10 that they come away that I'm like, I told you, Ken. I told you they were going to come over our back shoulders.
And that's like anything else that you do, turkey hunting, deer hunting, whatever, you learn from your experiences and, we probably should have put our decoys like that today, or we probably should have left our hole on this side or whatever it is, but I probably the most thing I can give on advice for waterfowl hunting is really set yourself up on your gear. You know what I mean? Like your waders and your jacket and stuff. Like don't skip out on that.
Yeah, for
Don't get
sure.
cold when it's 5 degrees outside and you're standing knee deep in water.
Yeah.
It's going to come back to bite you, and it's not going to be fun.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. The first set of waders I bought like a pair of it doesn't matter what they were, but they were uninsulated because they were $200 cheaper than the insulated waders, right?
Mhm.
So I'm like, I'll just wear extra socks and sweatpants. It does not work that way,
It does not work.
and I found that out the hard way. And so that first day we're like breaking ice, getting into the marsh. 2 hours later, I'm like, I'm done. Like I'm done. I cannot feel my feet. I can't feel my legs. And I didn't want to be that guy that made everyone else leave because we all rode together.
Right.
So I just suffered through, a 5 hour duck hunt, just miserable the entire time.
I don't know how many sets of neoprene waders I went through before I finally bought the breathable ones that
Yeah.
I can zip out the insulating liner and all that kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah.
I can wear these in teal season, and it's gonna be the same as wearing them.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't mind. I think my next pair of waders are going to have that zip out liner. I think so.
Oh, it's a game changer for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I got really lucky. We had a Gander Mountain close to us go out of business a few years back, and it was right around Christmas time, the New Year's, and I just gotten. I mean, everybody I'm just probably 22, 23, maybe a little older than that. Everybody got me Gander Mountain gift cards for Christmas, so I had a bunch of money to go in there with. And that was what I went for. I went for waders, and I said, I'm going to buy the best, baddest waders they got in here because I'm tired of buying them. So I went in there. It says I have Frog Tog Migrators 2.0s, 12 or 1,600 gram insulation. I think they were like $3.99. I take them up to the counter. She rings them up. They ring up $175. I said, I'll be right back. She goes,
Oh, yeah.
What's wrong? I said, I'm going to go grab more stuff because I got more money now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was like, oh, okay. I think I ended
That's
up buying some deer jacket and bibs and stuff like that. But, when you got free money to play with, I'll get some more stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What about gear-wise for turkey? If somebody was getting into turkey hunting for the first time, didn't have anything, what kind of advice would you give them for a beginning turkey hunter?
I think the one piece of gear that I have fought with for years is a pair of good turkey boots. And I know that's just, people want to hear calls and vests and blah, blah, blah. The boots has been a big deal for me. And it's partly the way that I hunt. I like to be super mobile. I cover a ton of ground most times when I go out, in excess, it's 7 to 10 miles every time that I go out and turkey hunt most days. And it's like, I hate wet feet. Everyone hates wet feet. So I bought, let's buy the muck boots. Well, to me, like this is going to sound weird, I think, to some people, but my feet feel dumb in muck boots, if that makes any sense. Like
I've actually talked about this on here before. My feet feel constricted.
Yes.
I feel like I don't have movement with my ankle.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They're amazing boots. I have like 3 pairs of them, but there's nothing like having a hiking boot where your feet feel comfortable. They can breathe. It makes you go further. It makes you do a lot more,
That's exactly right. So I went through, those knee-high, like snake boots and, I went to 2 or 3 pairs of those. And I settled on a pair of Irish Setter, just regular old hiking boots. And they're kind of waterproof, but they dry quick. And so but it was just, I wasted all of that money because I'm, like you watch guys on YouTube and they're like, they all have muck boots and like knee high, snake boots on. I'm like, well, that's what I need. Right. And it's just, I wasted thousands of dollars on boots and they're all in my basement. And, it was a pair of $89 hikers that was the end all be all boot for me. So, and I know that sounds stupid, but that's to me that was a really big deal finding that. The second piece of gear that you got to be comfortable. I started hunting, and some people make fun of me for this, but I started hunting with one of those like loungers.
Oh, absolutely!
Like the turkey chairs.
Turkey hunt without my chair.
Yeah, so like the nature of turkey hunting, sometimes you can be sitting in the same spot with your knees in your chest for 2 hours
Yeah.
and you're not moving
Right.
because you know that big boy's coming down the holler to you. And my back would hurt. I was always moving around. I'm like, God, man, I got to stand up and stretch. And so I bought one of those chairs like probably 3 years ago, and it was a total game changer. And what it did is, like, when you're turkey hunting, man, like you're walking through the woods. For me, I'm always looking behind me, like, okay, where if something gobbles, where can I set up? So I'm always looking around. Where can I set up? But you always have to have something to lean against.
Right.
If you're hunting with just a regular vest and a seat. But with that chair, if you can deal with the bulkiness of it, you can set up anywhere. I mean, I killed a bird in 2020. I was sitting in a weed pile that the only thing that was sticking above me was like my chest and my head.
Right.
And I was in weeds. And I mean, that bird had no idea I was there. And it was just kind of one of those weird situations. There was no trees to sit on. And I had to wait for 45 minutes for this bird to commit to where I could shoot him. And that chair was the game changer for me.
Oh,
So
absolutely. And
yeah,
I had a cheaper version for 6 7 years. I think it was called like the Turkey Gobbler or something from Walmart, Mossy Oak
yeah, I
Edition.
went through 2 or 3 of those. Yeah,
Yeah, and I always kept breaking the joints and stuff on it.
yep, every time.
And I finally upgraded and got one from Alps Outdoors.
Yes,
And
same one I
it
bought.
is, oh man, it's like having a lazy boy out there.
Yeah,
I've been with people and they're only in a vest, and they're like, "Hey man, my ass is numb. It's been numb for a minute. Can we stand up for a little bit?" And I'm
go
like,
ahead.
like just leaning back, like I'm sitting in the living room watching
Yeah,
TV. Like, oh, I'm
yeah,
kind of just gonna sit here for a little bit.
yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. Like, the trade off for me. Like, I'll deal with the bulkiness and kind of the inconvenience of carrying it with me for that right there. I mean, that to me, it was a huge deal for me. So
Absolutely. I think one of the top things I would tell a young turkey hunter to get gear wise is that pad for your knee. Stick your
yeah,
gun in that pad. It can, just like the chair, can make you very relaxed at times, and maybe
yeah.
it might let you sit someplace 20 minutes longer, and that could be the difference between you killing a bird and not killing a bird. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's for sure. The more comfortable you are, I think that directly will lead to more success, if in my opinion. So
Absolutely. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, you
yeah.
talked a little bit before about the Outdoor channel and Sportsman's channel and that kind of thing, and
Hmm.
YouTube. When somebody is maybe just enjoying watching content, or maybe they're trying to learn something, how to call on something, what do you think? YouTube over Sportsman's channel, or Sportsman's channel over YouTube?
I haven't watched Sportsman's Channel or Outdoor Channel in probably 5 years, and I have them both on my TV. And I got kind of disgusted with, and I'm gonna get a little preachy here, Brett. Forgive
No,
me, but I got
buddy,
kind of
you're an open book. You're more than welcome to talk. Whatever your beliefs are, I'm willing to listen.
All right. Well, so I was just disgusted with the content creation, on Outdoor Channel and Sportsman's Channel, because it wasn't real. And I've met some of these people, like Lee and Tiffany. I've met them at different trade shows.
Hmm.
Super nice people. What they do is not what I do, and
Right.
it's not what a majority. When I say a majority, I mean like 90% probably, if I had to guess, the hunters in this country don't operate like that.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot of stage stuff, and with the YouTube
it,
guys, you get like a lot of raw things
yeah,
that you're gonna
for sure.
experience too.
Yeah. And so for hunting, consuming as a consumer of hunting content, I didn't do it for years. I mean, I was completely out of it. And I got a text message from a buddy. It's like, "Hey, have you heard of this guy Dave Owens?" This is years ago.
Oh, I
I'm
love
like,
Dave Owens.
no. He's like, "We should check it out. Pinhoti Project." All right. So I got in there, Pinhoti Project, and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy doing what I'm doing. He's missing birds. He's hiking all over the place. He's freaking out. I love that he like misses, like he won't adjust the camera for the shot, you know.
He's just
And if the
shooting.
camera's facing, like if he like a couple of them, he'll like knock the camera over, and you hear him whisper, "I'm not gonna get this on camera," and he'll shoot this
Right.
turkey, and he doesn't care, and that's what I like. But all that older style stuff, it was, "Do you have him? Do you have him? No, no, no. Wait 5 feet." And it's just like, it's all about that, that kill shot. It's none of it was about the process. And the
Absolutely.
process to me is as important as the, that moment of impact, if you will.
Do
So
you think that's why the 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 public land or the hunting public kids or guys? Do
yeah.
you feel like that's why that it became such a big thing because it just hit home for so many people?
Yes, without a doubt, without a doubt. And that was another one. I saw Dave Owens first, and he kind of brought me back into the fold of like consuming, hunting content, and then it just spiraled into control or out of control with like the hunting public and their turkey tour. I think it was their very first year they did the turkey tour. I watched it. I was like, this is amazing. These guys know what it's like to be on public land, and they are really good at killing
They are
turkeys.
very good at killing
And
things.
so I was like, so my co-host and I, we went down to the ATA show this last weekend, and I was fortunate enough to have a really nice long conversation with Aaron and Greg from the hunting public. And the
Hmm.
first thing I said, I was like, man, you've never met me, but you guys made me a better turkey hunter. The way that you do things. And it's just a different perspective. And like if you're someone like me, you're always learning, you're always looking to be better. And I don't have an ego about stuff like that. I'd watch these guys, I'm like, damn, they're good.
Yeah,
I'm gonna start doing what they're doing.
I
And
feel
just,
like
just
they're
picking little
the
things.
the staple of spring
Yeah,
turkey hunting. Like
for sure.
I can remember even last year being at work, you know, and I have the notifications on my phone for that subscription on YouTube, and as soon as it pops up, it's like,
I'm gonna
okay,
watch it.
they didn't kill a bird yesterday because they're posting basically daily on there.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know they didn't kill a bird, they were chasing one yesterday. I gotta watch this at lunch.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm super focused in. I wouldn't say it's a fanboy type of thing, but I'm almost jealous that they get to do that. You get to
Yeah.
chase turkey every day like that, and,
Oh,
and
it's
I
it's
can only
amazing.
imagine because I've done week long trips turkey hunting. I can
Yeah.
imagine how grueling that schedule could
Oh my
probably be
god.
for them. I mean, I bet they're totally exhausted come May.
I love Dave Owens especially. He wears his emotions on his face, I guess. And you look at him, that first video of the year, and he's bright eyed and bushy tailed, and his face is flush and full. And then you look at him, 2.5 months later, and he's lost 20 pounds, his eyes are sunken, and he's completely worn out.
Oh,
I love that
absolutely.
because that's how I feel at the end of a good turkey season.
Oh, for sure.
So
As far as YouTubers go, as far as watching some of these stuff, what's probably your
sorry, you broke up there. Say that one more time, Brett.
I said, as far as YouTubers go, watching a lot of these people on YouTube, who's your favorite person to watch on there?
I definitely Dave Owens is definitely my favorite. I like Taylor Chamberlain, the Urban Bowman. That guy. Have you seen any of his stuff? He hunts
Hmm.
like the DC suburbs, and it's just crazy because he'll be hunting and there's like houses everywhere. He's just killing these monster deer. I like Taylor Chamberlain. Um, there's the Seek One guys are pretty cool. I mean, I enjoy some of their stuff. Um, I'm just trying to think. So I'm so heavy with turkey hunting that
I
it's
know,
just
me too. There's one you
there's
should check out on YouTube for Kentucky or for turkeys. Kentucky Hardwoods Hunter, I believe, is.
yeah, I've
Oh,
seen that.
that dude can get on some birds. I actually bought a
Yeah,
call off of him last year because I just thought it sounded good, and he was very nice with me, texting back and forth. And I kind of told him what I had going on. I was going out of state and stuff, and just wanted to try his calls out. And him and his buddies, it's basically him that's filming the whole time, I think. But they kill a lot of birds,
do they?
a lot of birds.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that Kentucky Hardwoods Hunter. So there's another guy. I think his YouTube channel is like Mendak. He's he's in Minnesota and he does like all kayak access duck hunts, which is something that I'm not. I'm a big dude. I'm not getting in a kayak in a body of water when it's
Right.
30 degrees. Like I'm just that's not my style. But and he's just this duck killing machine, man. And I love watching his stuff. But he's just funny about it. It's just like he'll well, like one time he goes out and he forgot to put like the firing pin back in his shotgun
Oh wow.
because he cleaned it the night before. So it's like, dude, duck, pile. They're just piling in. And he's just sitting there watching these ducks. And they're like 10 feet from him. And he's like, well, I'm just sitting here. And it's just hilarious. And he showed the entire thing. And 20 years ago, no one's, that's not getting aired.
No.
And he showed the entire thing, and that's man, that's the real content that I enjoy. So
There's actually some guys from northern Indiana that are big on the YouTube waterfowl side. You might have seen them on there before, but Duck Gun Chronicles.
oh yeah, those guys
Oh,
are great.
they
Yeah,
have some very good content. And I think they might
yeah,
even do like their own podcast. I think, but
they do. Yeah, they've got they're part of the, what is it, the Flyways Collective. They do,
something
those
like
guys
that.
do some real good work. So yeah, I appreciate their content. So
Absolutely. What about, you said, I know you made the comment to me before that you were Twitter's worst bow hunter.
yeah, oh man, I am like, yeah, I'm just like a terrible deer hunter. Like every deer that I've ever killed, it's all been by dumb luck. You know, it's not because I went out and worked hard for it. And you know, I've killed like a couple really good deer. Nothing like what you got behind you, man. Good for you.
I appreciate
Um,
it.
but I'm just not. I'm not patient. You know, like I want to get up and run. Like I want to chase these things down.
Like
You know, it's
turkeys.
like turkey hunting. So, like I'll be sitting in a stand or a ground blind. I'm like, dude, I know there's a deer over that ridge. I'm gonna go find it. And it doesn't work that way for people like me. You know, like the
Right.
hunting public, those guys have kind of perfected like the spot stock of deer, and that's just a level of like stealthiness that someone that's 6'3", 300 pounds, I just don't feel like I have that in me. So
So when
I'm just,
earlier you said that 95% of your hunting is on public, you deer
mhm,
hunt on public as well.
I do, yeah, yeah.
So
I'm the guy that like. Oh, go ahead.
no, sorry, I was just gonna say, what kind of like setup are you running with? You running with like a climber or a blind, or how do you on the
Yeah.
ground?
So when I was younger, I was running a climber, um, which those were fine. I mean, they're kind of bulky and clanky, but I feel like you're pretty versatile. Um, I had some success. Like I'm definitely the guy that I'll walk 3 miles into the woods, kill a deer, and I'm like, oh god, I gotta drag this thing by myself 3 miles out of the woods. So as I've gotten a little older, I've kind of switched to ground blind. Um, and then and I do some crossbow hunting. I don't do a ton. Um, it was funny, man. Like I would turkey hunt, and I'm like being like nestled, fall turkey hunt, be nestled in the brush, and it'd be deer, 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 like just nonstop. And I'm sitting there with a shotgun with turkey load. I'm like, man, I'm gonna start bow hunting these with a crossbow in my turkey chair and just tuck down into the weeds. And it worked out a couple of times, but it's just, I don't know. I'm just, I don't have the patience for it. I don't like, I don't like
I
the
mean,
wind.
if it doesn't get you, getting that spark in you like
Yeah.
turkeys and ducks and stuff like that, I can understand it.
Yeah.
Like like maybe like you said, some trips during the rut and stuff like that. Get on them or whatever. That can be pretty fun. Have you
Yeah.
had much luck on the public land deer hunting?
I have, I've had some good luck. I don't know if you can, that's my biggest,
Nice.
he's kind of hard to see, but that was, I didn't have him scored. He was just a typical 10, probably a 2.5, 3-year-old, 3.5-year-old deer, and was just this gorgeous animal. And we killed some smaller bucks and some does, and I definitely have had success. But for a long time, I got in that mindset that I'm looking for those Lee and Tiffany deer, and they're just
Right.
not. They just weren't coming into my life, so it was kind of discouraging. And it was kind of frustrating, and that's what I don't want to say. I started to hate deer hunting, but I started to put like unnecessary pressure on myself, and it kind of ruined me on deer hunting for a while, for a long time,
I
actually.
bet.
So.
Did you get any kickback from like your buddies on shooting a smaller buck or anything like that?
No, no, I never.
Okay, that's a good
It's
thing.
actually, the deer that's above me that I just showed you, like, one guy was, I'd let him walk another year. I'm like, well, you weren't sitting in that tree stand,
Yeah,
like,
you weren't on my hunt, so.
right? Yeah. So shut up. I have no tolerance for that stuff, man.
Oh, absolutely
Zero,
not. I could get
zero tolerance.
into a
Yeah.
whole conversation that.
Yeah, I heard that on one of your other podcasts I listened to today. You talked about some of the pushback that you had like on Twitter. I'm like, dude, I
And
want to
that's
fight people like that, you know?
right. And honestly, if you were to ask me what my favorite social media outlet is, I will probably still answer you, Twitter. Never had that kind
Yeah.
of pushback on there before. There's almost like, and I'm sure that you see it too, there's almost like a community on Twitter, like a hunting community.
Yeah, for sure.
There's good, obviously really good connection on there, but you do still have those jerks that like to get in there and say stuff, and I was
Yeah.
totally thrown off when they got the response. Um, I would have let, what do you say? I would have let it walk, or I don't know why you posted this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what did this guy
Yeah.
just say? Like, really? Like, why
Yeah.
would you even tell? Like, I've seen people on there, and I've seen some people really go after some people on there. But, when some little kids harvest on a youth hunt or something,
spike
a
buck or
spike
something.
buck or
Yeah.
something like that, it's like, dude, this kid is probably more pumped than
Jacked.
you'll ever be shooting a
Yeah.
200-inch deer. So
Yeah,
let's please
absolutely.
not talk about this any further.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's like, it's just like you hunt public, private, doesn't matter, man. You still, as a hunter, you put in the time, you put in the effort, you put in the money, and you worked for that thing. And I don't care what it is, man. As long as you, as the hunter, are happy, you hunted it legally and ethically, good for you. And
I'm glad you said that, because that's
yeah,
definitely my thought process on it. I know not everybody's like that. There is some people that are super into managing deer, and they want the biggest and the baddest every year. I understand that you're maybe in that situation with maybe a property that you hunt, and I can 100% support you in what you're trying to do. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have that, don't have that. So
yeah,
they're shooting pretty much anything they can get their hands on. So
yeah, for sure.
when I got to hunt Ohio this year, I shot probably one of the smallest deer I've ever harvested, period. A buck, small 6-pointer, but it was one of the most hard-earned bucks I've ever had.
Yeah,
And just the story about talking to you about the deer camp and all that
yeah.
stuff, I would
used to
do it
all live
again
there.
in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
First deer I've ever
absolutely.
shot from the ground with a bow.
Yeah,
Like, it's just
absolutely.
a whole
And
nother story.
and that's so cool, man. You work for that, and you're happy for it. Your family's fed, and you've got memories for a lifetime. And that's kind of that's the next evolution that this industry needs to have. And there's a lot of hate in this world, and social media amplifies it. And I don't like when
Definitely.
it's directed at people when they're hunting, when they're doing things the right way. I don't like that. I'll defend that vehemently.
Absolutely,
So
me too. I see that you're, real passionate about hunting Ohio. What other states do you maybe want to get to, or that you've gotten to, that you really are passionate about as well?
I really enjoy Tennessee. That state's been good to me for turkey hunting. Virginia has been good. A lot of trout fishing in Virginia, which is pretty cool. I've got hunts this year scheduled for. I'm going to Florida the beginning of March. Hunt Osceolas down there.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
dude, I can't wait. Yeah, and then I'm going to Montana to chase Merriam. So I'm hoping to get 3 of the 4 this year. But those Osceolas, man, they're tough to
Yeah,
hunt. So
I see that quite a bit. A lot of people chasing them down there.
yeah,
I'm actually going
so
to get to chase a bird potentially this year that I've never gotten to chase, and that's a Miram as well in
yeah,
North Dakota.
okay,
So I kind of pumped up about that.
yeah.
I've chased easterns my whole life, and I hear that these Mirams can be very vocal and just really fun birds to hunt up in the hills and stuff. I'm pretty pumped about it.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome, man, North Dakota. So, yeah, I'm hoping, with this new gig, unfortunate turkey hunting is part of the job, which I'd like saying that like blows my mind, man. I can't even. I'm like a kid, man. I'm so excited about that. But so I'll probably do some hunting in a couple other states, but who knows, man. So, but those are the two hunts that are planned and paid for. So.
Absolutely. What allowed like 4 birds in Tennessee?
During the fall, you can get 4. It used to be you could get 4 in the spring, but I think they're down to 3 now.
I
So you
got
got guys like Catman, who that's another one. I love
that's
that
another
guy.
guy killing a lot
Do
of
that.
birds.
So Cuz Strickland, I've heard him say there are turkey hunters and then there are turkey killers. And Catman is a turkey killer.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could blindfold that dude, not give him a call, and he's going to kill 3 birds
You
in the
stick him
same
on a
day.
boat somewhere in the lake, he's probably gonna find some birds.
Exactly. And it's just amazing. Like I watch that guy's videos, I'm like, oh my God. This like this guy's amazing. And it's just I strive to be like people like that, So I have my moments, but man, Still trying to figure it out, I think. So
Can you imagine being a fly on the wall sometimes when those conversations with Cuz Strickland and all them back
yeah,
in the day chasing all those birds and stuff? I
no,
couldn't
Will
even
Primos and all them
imagine Will
guys.
Primos and all them guys
Yeah,
down in Mississippi, and I mean, anybody that's turkey hunting for a long period of time, I would say late '90s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, like everybody watched Primo's Truth About Hunting Turkey
yep,
series. Like that was like what you bought at Walmart when you go in to check or get shells or
yeah.
whatever,
It was just legendary, and I don't know if this is true. Maybe but someone told me that that was the first time hunting had ever been filmed, like for a TV production. Like,
It
have you
might
ever
have been.
that like they were just? I mean, they were the trailblazers for this entire genre of content. So
Right, that's I always love that motto. You're watching it, the DVD's kicking into place, and they always say, this ain't Hollywood, this is the
yeah,
truth.
yep.
I love that back in the day.
Yeah, there's a guy talking about these, just these OG turkey hunters, man. This is the old guard. His name's Zack Farmer, Zack Farmer,
Mhm.
and he's still alive. I mean, he's got to be 95, and he's a trumpet maker. So I don't know if you're familiar with turkey
I am.
trumpets.
Hmm.
So for you guys that on YouTube that are not, that's what a trumpet looks like.
Nice.
One of those.
They use
And
those
this
a lot in the Northeast, right?
Yeah, dude. It's funny, man. I started using I can't use a mouth call. Like I get that mouth call and it starts vibrating, and I
Choking and
just start
stuff.
gagging, man. And you know what? Like I buy a new mouth call every year. I'm like, this is the one. It's going to be different. It's never different. I
Have you
gag every
tried the
time.
one made for people with
Yep.
dentures?
Yes, the small one.
Yep.
All of them. Every single one of them. I've cut them down. I've bent them. I've flexed everything. I've tried everything. I mean, I've literally bought probably 85 mouth calls, and not one has worked. And so my wife, who doesn't turkey hunt at all, I hand her one like 2 years ago. I'm like, just put this in your mouth and try it. And she's just like, I'm like, oh, I was so mad. I just walked away. I'm like, I can't even look at you. I'm so pissed off right now. And so every once in a while, she'll throw that turkey call in, and she's like, it gets me all
Talk a little
fired up.
bit
But
about turkey calls. That's probably my favorite. That's probably what I'm best at is using a mouth call. And
okay,
I was a natural at it when I first. I know that probably makes you mad.
good for you, man.
Like as soon as I stuck it in, like it was something I figured out pretty quick.
Yeah,
I used to drive my dad and them nuts, getting in the shower when I got home from school and shit, put that in there
yeah,
and just messing with it in the shower. But you talk about running and gunning a lot. When I feel like when I move on that running and gunning, even if it's just walking and listening, I'm kind of calling as I'm moving, and
100%.
that
Yeah,
could
every
be
time.
and I'm looking for mushrooms too, walking
Yep.
around, do a little purr and maybe a little kiki or something and put it in there,
Yeah.
and it just sometimes I'll be looking for mushrooms and just calling as I'm walking. Pow, he
Yeah.
fires up. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm hitting the ground. Whoop.
Yeah. I like the weird. I've kind of gotten into the weird turkey calls. Like I use a tube call. This is a Woodhaven,
That's
and
cool.
the reeds busted on it. But dude, this thing, you can hear this. I could hit this, and you'd hear it in Indiana. I mean, it is loud. And so a lot of times I'll go into. I think it was Cuz said that he's like, I want to wake the woods up. Like that's his.
Yeah.
I think that's who it was. Might have been Dave Yetter today.
No, yeah, he
Yeah, it was Dave, and
talked
I'm like,
he
yeah,
talked
he's
about
like,
it as well.
yeah, I want to wake the woods up. I'm like, that's exactly right. Like, I want to go out there. I want to be the loudest thing first thing in the morning because they're gonna shock gobble. Like like that's you're gonna get them, and obviously you're not hammering that thing the entire day, but waking them up in the morning, I'm like, that's exactly right. Like I've never had the term to go along with what I'm doing. So
Right.
I want to wake them up.
A lot of people in the waterfowl world, they get caught up, you know, ordering like antique calls and stuff like that. Is that something that you're into on the turkey side?
So I have, like, you see my little collection of signs behind me. All of these I've found on the ground. Um, I've got my thing is like I love these old signs. I got a bunch of them, and I love anything like old Ohio memorabilia when it comes to. So I've got maps. I've got books, guidebooks, not guidebooks, but rules books from like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I've got every year the state would put out like a public lands map for waterways and for hunting lands. I've got a couple of those from the 50s.
That's awesome.
I've got some duck calls from the 40s. I have forced myself to stay away from turkey calls. I look at them all the time, and I saw one today. It's like this old school scratch box from like 30s. It's $300. I'm like, I want that. I need it. I don't want it. I need it. I have to have that. And so how do I tell my wife, like, hey, I just bought $300 turkey call? She's like, oh, are you gonna eat? No, it's gonna sit on my shelf.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't work that
definitely
way,
a
you know.
case back
So
here.
yeah, so I stay. I try to say I definitely have my like my little collection, but I have forced myself to stay away from turkey calls, so because it'll spiral out of control in a heartbeat.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on this week, short
thank you,
notice,
man.
and everything, man. It's been a real fun conversation. I've learned
Good. I hope so.
a lot about your NWTF stuff and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty cool. And I hope everybody else enjoyed it. Tell everybody where they can find you out on social media.
So you can find me. My Twitter handle is I think it's at Paul Campbell 322. Um, I use Instagram. I honestly don't know what it is. I have no idea. I don't use very much. The one app, and you've talked about it, that I'm really putting a lot of effort into, and I'm going to make it my main source of communication in the social media world, because all I care about is hunting, is Go Wild. So you
It's
can just
awesome. I
search.
love it on there. I didn't
Yeah.
even know you were on there. I have to find you
Yep.
on there.
Yeah, for sure, man. So I actually just started like a little series today. I'm doing so I if you don't mind, man, I don't want to take people away
No,
from
buddy,
what you're
go
trying to
ahead,
do,
buddy.
but so I bought this book a couple weeks ago, and it's the New Hunter's Encyclopedia. Look how thick it is.
That
It's
is
over
thick.
1,100 pages, and it's printed in 1966. And so it's all about it's geared towards people that have never hunted. This is how you hunt. This is the things you do, like building blinds, building bows, guns, loads, ammo loads, everything. The thing that really caught my attention is in the back of the book there was a game report for all 50 states, and it was, well, not all 50 states because there weren't 50 states at the time, but I don't know, maybe there was. I'm dumb. Hawaii, was it around in 66? I don't know. Doesn't
I
matter.
don't think so.
Anyway, right back to the, and so it had like harvest data. It had how much licenses cost, how much public land was in each state at the time. And so I started looking at like in Ohio. And so in Ohio, I'm sure it's the same way in Indiana. In 1966, in Ohio, there were over 500,000 wild pheasants harvested in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
500 wild pheasants, 500,000. It was the number one game animal in the state.
I know that
Pheasants.
Indiana had a lot of pheasants and
Yeah.
quail and chuckers and all that stuff.
You had
And
a Hungarian partridge. I
yeah,
looked at it today. Hungarian partridge. When was the last time you even heard that? It's
I
not
haven't
even.
heard that in
It's
a long time, but
exactly pheasants in Ohio. Like we might have a real small population of of wild pheasants,
mhm,
maybe 2 to 5% of the population. The rest of them are all pen raised,
yeah, putting
and the
tags.
state releases like 2 to 5,000 a year across there. And so you look at that, like 500,000 harvested. So we're talking 800,000 population, down to all we have is pen raised birds that the state's releasing. That's staggering to me. Like that's something to be concerned about.
Absolutely. I heard
And
that for Indiana, the blizzard of '78, I believe it was,
yeah,
killed a lot of those small game birds off here in
yeah,
Indiana because place I hunt, deer hunt, they always talk about coveys of quail, even back in the
yeah.
'90s. Go deer hunting and you kick up a covey of quail. I couldn't tell you the last time I even seen a quail.
I haven't seen a quail in Ohio. I've never hunted for quail. I've seen them just kind of by mistake. There's some quail management areas down in Zaleski State Forest that you, like, every once in a while you'd see one or two, but it's gone. It's a non-existent game bird. There's only 5 or 6 counties in Ohio that you can hunt quail in legally,
Wow.
and they're all in Southern Ohio. And it's like one or two birds. So that the population is going to disappear, just like the chukar and the Hungarian partridge. So it was really neat. So I started looking at that, that data that we have that I have from this book,
Hmm.
compared to the data that we have now, and it's all publicly available. So I put a post out a couple weeks ago, like, hey, I'm going to do this series. What do you think? A lot of people responded to it, and so I'm going to go through all 50 states, or 48 states, 49 states, however many in this damn book, and it's going to be like a snapshot of where we're at. I'm going to talk about it because it is really, there's some really good information in this book. And I think it's imperative to see, like, the industry that we're in, that we love. It's imperative to understand where we came from and how far we've come, and where we've lost traction and where we've regressed. I think it's really important. because deer, they're not immune to it.
You're right.
Turkeys, not immune to it. Those species of animals could be gone in our lifetime,
Right.
if things aren't controlled and managed. Look at EHD out in North Dakota. I mean, that has wrecked, absolutely wrecked the wild deer population
It really
in
has here,
North Dakota.
close to where I hunt as well. It's really,
Yeah,
really done a number on some deer
yeah.
population.
And people hunters, they shut down when they hear EHD or CWD. They don't want to hear it. It's just like, it's like, people hear coronavirus and like, whatever, I don't care. Variant, whatever. I like fuzz out when someone says variant. I'm like, whoa. CWD, it's the same thing. People shut down. That is real, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just because we don't see deer dead along the road or float around in ponds doesn't mean that it's dangerous and something. So I think it's very important to understand how far we've come and where we've slipped up as a society, as conservation organizations, as government agencies that are in charge of this stuff. Where we've fallen short, and it doesn't mean that we place blame, but that we assign responsibilities going forward. This is what we need to do.
How did you find Go Wild?
Parker McDonald, Southern Ground Hunting. So he's another guy that I really appreciate. He does a lot of podcasts. He does some YouTube stuff. Dude's a killer, man. I mean, the guy's awesome. And he talked about it. So I signed up back in the spring. I'm like, man, this is really cool. So
I love it.
I'm not big on, and this is just me personally. I'm not big on putting like dead animals on social media, and it's not because I'm like some righteous. It's just not. I'll put like a couple pictures, but it's just not something that I do a ton of.
Right.
Go wild, I'll do it. Yeah, there's no like it's easy. I feel like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Like you could be one of your friends, man, that doesn't hunt. They're not an anti-hunter. They're a non-hunter.
They just
But
don't
like you
see
can,
it.
if it's the wrong picture, it's the wrong presentation. Like you can change the course that like the what they have in their opinions, and like it or not, that matters when it comes down to public perception is a real thing. So just something that I've always been kind of careful with. So
You talk about Adam Bowles and Hunt the Wild, how you were going to be on his show.
yeah,
Me and him communicate quite a bit, and he sends me this link. Join him on Go Wild. I'm like, what is this, dude?
Yeah.
What are you sending me? He's
It's
like,
awesome.
I promise you, check it out. So I check it out.
Yeah.
I probably post on there maybe once, sometimes more than that, a day.
Yeah.
I really love going through there and checking everybody out.
Yeah,
And what I
it's
really
neat.
love about it is, you see when somebody posts on there, you see if it's their first post.
Yeah.
So you always see there's a ton of comments on somebody's
Yeah.
first post. It's always like,
Yeah.
Congratulations on your buck and welcome to Go Wild family.
Yeah.
And that just
Yeah.
blows me away sometimes.
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's cool. I enjoy it. So, yeah, if people want to find me on social media, the Go Wild is definitely the one that I put the most on. Paul, the O2 podcast is on the Sportsman's Nation. That's the other one if they want to listen to it after they're done listening to yours, of course. But Paul Campbell 322 is my Instagram.
How often do you guys record a podcast?
We do one a week.
One a week.
Yeah, one
I
a
feel
week.
like that's
So
a pretty happy medium for the most part.
yeah, it is. It's been cool, man. It's been we've had like a ton of really just interesting people that we've met, and we're getting ready to start this. I don't know if we're gonna name it like the series, but it's like we're gonna interview a lot of really old hunters. And when I say old, I'm talking like one of these guys is like in his 90s and is dying.
Wow.
And he's got one of the greatest stories out there. He's one of the most successful big game hunters on the face of the earth ever. And he's gracious enough to give us a couple hours this time. And we got some guys who are really big in Ohio and Indiana, and just these older guys because it's funny, man. Like there's so like when I say we like consumers now, we get hung up with like the Meat Eater and Hunting Public and guys that are our age, and then we totally ignore like this generation that came before us that created what we have now.
Right.
And they are absolute killers. I mean, they are good. And they have these guys, man. This guy, his cabin, we're going to do the interview on Friday. He's got over 400 big game animals hanging on his wall. 400. Like that's insane.
Wow.
I've never even killed 400 animals in general.
How do you connect with those people?
I'm not afraid to talk to anyone. And so we were at ATA and I got this guy's name. His name's Bill Eppers. I'll tell everyone who he is. They're like, you should go talk to him. And so I Google him. I never heard of him. I Google him, this guy. And he's got like 26 Grand Slams to his name.
Wow.
He's got multiple world turkey Grand Slams. He's killed buffalo, right, all the bow. It's nuts.
Wow.
Elephants. And so I just found him at the show. I got his name, who he works for. He works for PSE. And I hunted him out. I'm like, Bill, my name's Paul from Ohio. You're from Ohio? And he's just like, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. I'm like, oh my God, really? so he's coming on. We got a real good guy, the older gentleman who's not doing well. I'm going to save his name because there's a lot of moving parts to that one, but it's going to be a great story. And I'm real excited. I think people are going to enjoy it. So, because those old guys, man, I'm telling you, they got a great story to tell. And I think
they got stories for everything.
They do, man. And we bypass them. Like we just gloss over them, because we want what's shiny and new and, right. Selling us platforms.
Do you find, with your podcast, how far do you book out? Is it something that you're to me tonight, I had somebody cancel on me, some health problems or whatever.
Yeah.
But, sometimes I wouldn't say that I have trouble finding somebody. I have trouble finding the right person that I think fits what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, don't get me wrong. I base this podcast off of having regular guys on, just like me and you, that are regular guys that enjoy hunting and fishing and stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. That's the way to do
it. And I really want to keep it like that. But, every once in a while, I like to have somebody on, maybe, somebody that somebody's going to pay attention to when you see the name. Maybe you recognize it or a face, or it's like, hey, that's really cool that they got them on this week. Let's check this out.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have right now we have probably 3 interviews that we've done. One of them was back in October, I think, maybe November, that we're just waiting, we have that little bank, in case we don't want to record,
Right.
So right now I'm trying to get as many turkey guests as I can. We'll start releasing turkey content. So Dave Owens is coming on, Scott Ellis is coming on. Kind of our thing is, I want to get people that are really good. One, they're really good storytellers, and 2, they're really good at hunting. And like I said earlier, I just want to ask the right questions. And It comes from a place of I want to be better. I watch you guys, Scott Ellis. Are you familiar with him?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have some of his calls.
I just sent him an Instagram message yo, man, I've watched all your videos for years. Awesome. Do you want to come on and talk on the pod? He's like, yeah, why not? I'm like, damn, he said yes. So yeah, he's gonna do, and it's just all gonna be about turkey calling. And to me, it's good storyteller, add value, and that's it, man. And that can come from anybody. And I'm not the best hunter in the world, man. I feel like I'm good at asking questions and listening. Listen to learn, not to respond with something that was pushed onto my mindset years ago. And I think that's kind of benefited me. And this is great, man. This is a great talk. So
me and Adam's had the conversation before. We want some eyes and ears to get on our stuff sometimes, because we feel like we put out some decent stuff sometimes.
You do, yeah. You both do.
But what's something, I don't know how to put this in the right words. How do you think, is it something that you just got to keep plugging at and plugging at and plugging at? Or is it something somewhere along the lines you catch that break where maybe you just get a guest on that brings more eyes and ears to it? You take that next step in the podcast. I can already tell you talking about Scott Ellis and Tim Owens and them. That's a whole another league above me. How do you make that step?
I don't know, man. I'm very fortunate. I think a lot of it helps that we're on the Sportsman's Nation, which, like I said earlier, was pure dumb luck. And I don't deserve that luck when it comes to it. We just lucked into it, man. And we're and it's funny, we talk about on the show, we did an interview with Tony Peterson, the guy from Meat Eater. Awesome dude, super gracious with his time, knows Dan Johnson, the owner of Sportsman's Nation. So that was how the connection was made there. It was the worst interview we've ever done. In the middle of it, my cat walks in and knocks I have this door on my room that I record in, and I'm too lazy to hang it up. It's one of them barn doors, Yeah. And so I just have it propped up. The cat knocks the door over in the middle of the interview. I completely lose my train of thought, and I just stop talking. We had to edit it out because it was that like, and Tony Peterson's just looking at me. I'm like, I'm out. Like I have nothing for you. And it was the worst interview until the last like 10 minutes. I listened to a podcast with him, and he was talking about like family life balance. And I just asked him about, as you get older, blah, blah, things become different. And he just talked for 20 minutes about family and balance and, what's important in life. And I'm like, dude, that was all the hunting stuff was bullshit because we were too dumb to get through the interview. But that was great. And I don't think it matters, man, to me, like who's talking. It's just asking those questions and people are going to listen. I mean, you and Adam do a really nice job, man. And I've really enjoyed getting to know you guys and listening to your shows. And I'm just lucky. I'm not good. I'm lucky. And it's like that in the woods. I'm lucky. It's like that in this podcast. I'm lucky. I work hard in my professional job to be a good father and husband. But when it comes to this stuff, I'm just fortunate and lucky. And it's going to happen for you guys. So
I just like me and him have had 100 conversations. It's like, man, like I'm like we're each other's biggest critic. Like
yeah.
as soon as he posts an episode, like he always posts on Sunday night, so I'm always listening Monday morning, like on my way to work or something. Like he's expecting that text message before like 9:30 in the morning because we both go to work really early in the morning. He's like,
that's hilarious.
"Have you listened yet? Like, give me some pointers. What happened? Like, did it go well?" And it's funny because like we've actually had conversations with like, "Well, how's this episode doing for you?" And it's like our episodes for the week, and it's like, he may do better than me or I may do better than him. And then we just like both shrug it off and we're like, dude, who gives a shit? We're having a blast doing this. And it's like, who cares about numbers? I know that I really enjoy listening to your show.
Yeah.
And like, and he enjoys listening to mine. And like we've talked before, like his show is totally different than mine. We're two different people. That's going to happen when you have shows. You have different personalities, different questions, different themes.
Yep.
And it's just such a blast because I would have thought, sometimes when I started the YouTube thing back in the day, trying to get people to subscribe to the YouTube and that kind of thing was really hard to get people to do it, and nobody would really give me any pointers or anything like that. And then I start this podcast game, and I become friends with him, and it's like, man, everybody in the podcast world is so nice and will give you tips on how they do things and maybe give you pointers and this and that. Everybody is so nice.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the one thing that I've enjoyed the last, 6 months is the people that I've met, the people that I've talked to. And, one thing that's important for our show, because we focus primarily in Ohio, we've built a really good relationship with the DNR and the Department of Wildlife, because they're the people that control what we enjoy, like it or not, government this, government that, whatever. They're the ones that control the purse strings and control. So we've given them a voice to talk about their message and why they do things. And it's been our most popular episodes have been the biologists from the state. It's not been Tony Peterson. It's not been Ranch Fair. It's not been all these guys. It's been the guy that tells you how many deer you can kill in the state of Ohio. That's the most popular guy. And we have this huge bow hunter. His name's Mike Rex from Ohio. That's the number 2 episode when you look at the numbers. That's what people want to hear, man. They want to hear that honest content. They want to hear that honest dialogue. And it's not just something that's regurgitated across 1,000 shows,
Right.
So
my most popular episode is with a bow hunter that just started bow hunting last year.
Okay.
Like just a newcomer that talked about, like the stories and stuff and the trials that he went through becoming a bow hunter and a saddle hunter at the same time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's shooting a big deer 2 years in a row in his first couple of years. It's like,
that's so
he
cool,
figured
man.
something out, what I mean?
And that's funny, man. I'm like, we're sitting around, Andrew and I, my co-host, and we're trying to figure out like what we're going to talk about. And I'm like, man, we should get like a person that just started hunting on the show. And not that we're professionals, but when I first started, 24 or whatever, I was wound up, man. Like, I was excited. Everything was new. Everything was exciting. And that passion was there. Like, so, one of my really good friends, I got him and his brother into duck hunting this year. And 2 weeks ago, I took them on their first duck hunt, and we had this big old flock. There's like 30 ducks working in, man. There's no one out in this marsh, and they're circling around and they're coming in. And I look to my left and my buddy Brandon, is shaking like a leaf.
I love it, man.
And I loved it, man. I loved it. And these birds come in, and me and my buddy Ken were like, shoot them. And all four of us stand up, and Kenny and I shoot. Brandon and his brother, first duck I didn't shoot. And I'm like, why didn't you guys shoot? They're like, I don't know, I froze up. And I was like, dude, I love it. Don't ever lose
I
that,
blacked
man.
out.
I blacked out. I'm like, yes, like that's what I'm here for, man. So it's funny, like, you know, when we working these ducks, I'm calling or whatever, I'll just look over at him just to watch him shake, you know, like his gun's like hitting the blind, you know. I'm like, I love it, man. That's what I'm here for. So
Absolutely.
and it's just that passion and that adrenaline rush, man. That's what keeps us all coming back. And to see the moment that hit for someone, that meant the world to me, man. I could have just walked out of the marsh and never walked back in. That was it for me. And I'm like, God damn, that was cool. Sorry, I didn't say that. But.
No, but I dropped that.
I got chills just thinking about it, man. And that's what it's about, man. And it's just that honest people. I think this industry, when I say this industry, the content creation in this hunting industry, I think there's the people that aren't in it for the right reasons, they're getting weeded out.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's happening. And people like you, man, that are just doing it the right way. That's the people that are going to rise, because that's what we need to have.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
you know, and I felt like I handcuffed myself a little bit when I created our brand in general, because it's called Blue River Bow Hunting. So you think that most of everything that I want to talk about is bow hunting. It is not. You know, our podcast will go other places other than bow hunting.
Yeah.
It's just what we're passionate about, and that's what we really wanted to focus on. You know, we chased these whitetails so hard, and I even chased turkeys with my bow.
Yeah.
But, you know, there's that week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks that we really get into waterfowl.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'm open to talk about it on here. I know maybe some people that found my podcast in general looking for just bow hunting material. You know, you're going to find other stuff in there with it, which – they like it or they don't like it, I'm still gonna put it out there, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's you know, it's like when I saw your podcast, and I followed you on Twitter and listened to some of your shows. That's why I said I'm literally the worst bow hunter on Twitter, but if you want to talk turkeys, I'm more than willing to do it. So
I'm definitely more than willing to talk turkeys. I hope some longbeards hit the ground this year.
I hope so, man. Yeah, we'll definitely keep in touch. So
yeah, if you ever need a cameraman over, I'm only one state away, and I'm willing to travel, buddy.
Yeah, right down 70. I appreciate that.
No, I'm serious. I would definitely do it. I got a pretty good setup for filming for turkeys.
Okay,
I've done it the last couple of years, and it's a really fun thing to do too.
Good.
It's nothing like chasing those whitetails with the camera. That's a whole nother setup. But chasing them turkeys can be fun.
Oh, it's a blast, man. I love it.
Well, I definitely appreciate you having coming on and discussing some of the stuff we discussed this week.
No,
but
this has been fun, man. I've appreciated the time.
I would love to actually have you back on maybe before or after turkey season, and you know, maybe talk a recap of your season, how it all went on your trips and stuff. Hopefully you're close to that slam when we're talking later on.
Man,
you got some stories.
So. I'm gonna try like hell, man. So.
But I appreciate everybody listening, and if you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate that too. Hit that subscribe button for us. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Go Wild, just about anywhere that there's a profile for something. We're on there too. But I appreciate Paul coming on here and talking with us.
My pleasure, man.
Go check his podcast out too, the O2 podcast. And I appreciate everybody for listening. Y'all have a good one.